The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori?
Good 2024, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. A couple things I want to get off my chest at the get-go, at the outset, at the start of everything. Couple things I want to get off my chest. Number one, a few folks have slid on in to my DM, not in the way that you guys talk about it, in a healthy way, just apprising me. What they do is they'll slide into my DM. They'll just like flash some news at me, making sure I'm alert of it. So I want to say to those folks, I genuinely appreciate that. I may not always respond. I usually notice, and I genuinely appreciate it because, yeah, there's stuff that happens out there that I can totally be oblivious to. That might be important stuff. So don't ever stop doing that. I'm totally cool with that. Totally appreciative of it and grateful. I might not express my gratitude on a regular basis for those efforts. So I am now publicly, without naming names, but you know who you are, telling you I appreciate you. So thank you. Now, sometimes I'll get the same thing flashed at me multiple times. One of those happened today with the resignation of Harvard President Claudette Gay. Now, my thoughts about Ms. Gay are just to lay clear here, okay? Just to lay clear here. Is she a representative of everything wrong with the left and their policies? Heck yeah. Everything wrong. From the empty intersectionality, lack of actual merit, rising to her position despite and withstanding claims of plagiarism, that all of a sudden her oppression has become a sword to say you don't need to have merit because you're from an intersectionality or a combination thereof that we're going to deem oppressed. And hence, despite any lack of talent, integrity, or virtue, we're going to ascend you to the highest throne in the land. And going to pretend that the emperor don't have no clothes. That's essentially what we're going to do. And every time someone points and giggles, we're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's the most beautiful outfit ever. Who would only you must be a bigot or a racist or a black hater or a misogynist, or you hate gay people, or you hate midgets, or you hate pygmies, or you hate weird looking folks. You're one of those racists against really weird-looking folks. Or you hate Karens. Or you hate people who come across like they're complete and total jerks. What's wrong with you? Why do you hate those folks? Or you hate mental midgets. Or you hate people who scream out platitudes. You're one of those racists against people who scream out platitudes and basically regurgitate and spew out whatever stupidity is being the masses want her to say. Why are you one of those racists like that? They're going to say all sorts of terrible things about you. I amused myself with that one. Yeah. But the point that I'm getting at, because I lost my train of thought, not going to kid you. I lost my train of thought. But the point that I'm getting at is, does she represent everything loathsome, disgusting, and just ew about the left? Heck yeah. And does it feel as if, like, we're at war with these folks? Like we need to sort of just stop this, stop the madness, stop the craziness. Somebody, for the love of God, just turn this craziness off, or at the very least lower the volume a little bit, because I'm getting a ringing in my ears, which is making me crazy. Yeah. And if you're not fighting that fight, all I'm going to say is, what the heck is wrong with you? What do you need to wake you up? Because they're ringing the alarm bells themselves like a bunch of monkeys in a fire station that are just like all excitedly just clang, 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 clang. You got like a whole zoo full of people there. You got like cats and dogs and the just craziness happening. What more do you need to wake up? So if you're not fighting that war against the madness, against the insanity, which seems almost desperate to put a strangle on any possible success or greatness for our country, I don't know what more you need. What more do you need? What do you need? I need to come knocking on your door and just sort of just like, hello, hello, anyone home? Hello, McFly, come home. Hello. What do you need? What do you need? So, yeah, you should be engaged in this struggle, because if you're not, they're already engaged in a struggle against you. They're already engaged in a struggle against you. But what I will say is this. Removing Claudette Gay, while it feels really good, doesn't really fight the war. It doesn't do anything. So, yeah, it feels like sort of like a kind of like victory. But I'll point out, not like she was fired. She was resigned. Now, you might say that there's sort of like a reflection of pressure that was put upon her. And it sort of feels like a Bud Light, Dylan Mulvaney kind of moment that's like, oh, we toppled this. But it's not really a toppling, because they have a short list of candidates who are every bit as terrible as Ms. Gay. Every single one of them. It's almost like I have no idea who's on their short list. I can just tell you that whoever Harvard replaces her with is a terrible human being. Terrible, terrible human being. So then where are we winning? How's that winning the war? It feels good. It feels good. And I guess some would say that this is sort of a victory in the sense that it sends a message. For example, we always complain about the message when it comes in the opposite way, right? Like when they try to silence a Riley Gaines, there's still gonna be other Riley Gaines out there, right? So we get bothered by that. We get bothered by that and on an individualistic level. So, what happened to Riley was terrible and wrong. And we're going to hear from her tonight in the clips that one of the earlier clips that I plan on playing tonight. If you're unaware, Riley Gaines is a college swimmer who spoke out against trans athletes in the locker room with her. So, and she's become a lightning rod for, like, she's considered an oppressor. But the point that I'm getting at is, so yeah, we look at it sort of almost as if that when that happens, when there's sort of a clamping down from the left or from big tech or from the government or whatever, that it's a silencing, it's a chilling effect designed to chill you and me. So one could look at it the opposite way, that when someone like a Ms. Gay gets removed, so that has a chilling effect, right, on the left. If there's a chilling effect when it comes hard against us, there should be a chilling effect on the left if it's coming against them. That's the argument that someone could fairly make. There's logic in making that argument. And yeah, it just don't think that this is an actual win. It just, like, it's chilling the temperature. It's basically taking a temperature which is like at I don't know, 187 degrees Celsius and just sort of like, bringing it back down to 185. So maybe there's that level of chill. And I guess, look, every victory should be celebrated. And we can pop the champagne. I'll pull out my little Cal Island and tell you how delicious and wonderful it is. And I can't believe they're not sponsoring me yet. And all sorts of wonderful things we can say about this. But don't look at this like this is some massive, massive victory. Like all of a sudden Harvard no longer is woke. No. There's no backbone there to stand up to those woke college students. And nothing. No. And I'll tell you right now, I know whoever's replacing her going to be a terrible human being. I don't even know who that individual is by the fact that they get the job. That's how I will know that they're a terrible human being, because I know that Harvard will screen out anybody who's halfway good or beneficial to their students and vet those away and make sure that they're basically picking from the wokest, craziest Robin DiAngelos of the world and ascend that individual almost assuredly an XX chromosome individual, unless it happens to be someone who's XY and claiming that they're XX. That's a possibility too, but definitely not some XY, and almost certainly with a fairer amount of melanin than I got. Which I don't care about the level of melanin. I'm just saying the fact that that's a prerequisite is what makes it so sad. Anyway, so that's my thought on Ms. Gay. Is it a good thing she's gone? Yeah, okay, fine. We're back down to 185 Celsius. I guess it's a little cooler. It's not like you're going to be putting away the ice anytime soon. You know? Not like we're like, whew, oh, that's much better. No one's doing that. That's not happening. We're still at war. And obviously when I say war, I don't mean a pew pew kind. I mean the war for ideology. So no one go take the other stuff from anything I say ever. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Ms. Gay. Oh, look who's here. Law of self-defense. How are you, my brother? Guess I have a super chat to get this notice. Fair enough. Reflects Joe's success in ADHD. One black Harvard president resigns. Joe calls doctor about a 4-hour erection. No, that's... I wasn't looking at the chat at all. Honestly, I really wasn't. I guess you're calling me out. I guess you're recognizing that. When I get started, when I'm in the middle of a thing, I only get distracted by chat. It ruins the whole impact of what I'm doing. I can't look at the chat like seriously, because I get very, very locked in. Like I said, like when I'm always talking about how men think that we just get very, very focused. So if I see if something just sort of hits me from the side, everything I'm trying to say or the way I'm manifesting my expression is going to suffer. So that's part of the art. Part of the art is a requirement that I put on blinders. Just sort of look at you fine people, or what seems like I'm looking at you fine people when I'm staring at a Panasonic camera. Don't let freedom ring that much. That's my point. Follower number 6, Joseph. Will the replacement admit that calling for genocide of Jews is against Harvard policy? Kind of like saying there are two genders is violence or something. Likely that they'll bend the knee on that issue. I don't even think that that's really a win, because they don't really mean it. Doesn't really do anything. Taking the temperature of the thermometer tastes ew, gross. That was so gross. Oh my god, drop. Oh my gosh. All right. This is true. You can't spell hard without most of the letters from Hamas. Okay. That was one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing I want to talk about is there's all this growing talk about the release of the Epstein list, right? That there was a court order saying that the Epstein list has to be, flight logs have to be released. I'm talking to you now as somebody who attended the Ghislaine Maxwell trials, where those lists were flashed up on screen for us. They didn't allow us to bring cameras in there. We're just sort of like taking down notes and stuff like that. And even on the screen they shared with us, a whole bunch of it was redacted. And Judge Nathan, who I will point out to you, I believe that she was raised to the Second Circuit right after that case, and has all the intersectionality. She meets all the intersectionality checklists aside from her skin color. But she's a short white, lesbian, which is certainly a plus in the political sphere. I'm going to tell you this: Judge Nathan, who handled this case, was just par excellence. Oh my God. She was a great judge, like really fair. The attorneys on both sides, great attorneys on both sides for both the state and defense. It was a pleasure watching that trial. It was. Where the objections happened, very few objections, because the questions were so pointed and just so perfectly couched. Very, very few technical mistakes. And the judge, when called upon with difficult decisions, you could see the thought process that's going through there, that she's actually like she's really fairly applying it based on federal rules of civil procedure. I cannot praise the work of everyone involved with that case. Just really, it was really, every trial should be run as well as that trial was. Now, one of the things that we did see throughout it, the frustrating thing, was that the state definitely seemed to show a concerted effort to hide that flight list as much as possible. And one of the things I praised Judge Nathan for was the fact that she yelled at the state, chastised them for over blocking it out. And, you know, she's like, why did you leave out? Why do you only have like we can only see from a list of like 4,000 names, like we can only see like 7 of them? Like, why is that? And made them resubmit it without all those blockers. She's like, well, we wanted to protect the age of and the names of the victims here. So she's like, so block out their names, but every other name should be there. So I've seen the lists. I've seen the list. I can discuss with you what I saw. In fact, I will tomorrow on Locals. I will discuss with you. And I apologize, I didn't get to a Locals today. And tomorrow on Locals, I plan on discussing what I saw on the list with respect to Bill Clinton and some of the other names that are on that list. You know, people are going to talk about Trump. I'll tell you what I saw. I'll tell you what was there. That's going to be on Locals tomorrow afternoon when I'm also reviewing my argument with Destiny. So but I think there's an interesting fight that's brewing right now between Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Kimmel with respect to Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Jets, former more noted for being his quarterback work with the Packers, where he basically is feuding publicly with Jimmy Kimmel and claiming that Jimmy Kimmel doesn't want the flight logs to come out. And Jimmy Kimmel came out firing, saying, I don't know Epstein, never been on his flights. You better be careful here. We're going to end up in court about this. And all sorts of people saying that Aaron Rodgers is implying all sorts of nasty things about predilections that Mr. Jimmy Kimmel may have. I'll tell you right now, saying someone's on a flight log or saying he doesn't want the flight log released isn't the same thing as calling him a kitty aficionado. It's not the same thing. So Jimmy Kimmel might be all hot and bothered about it, but he's a cuck who I'm sure gets hot and bothered 4 times a day whenever anyone he cares about is basically stepping out in front of him. So I'm not surprised that he's all hot and bothered. We should come to expect him to be all hot and bothered. And his bluster that he throws out there, you better stop that, I'm going to take you to court. I don't think anything's going to come of that. If you have more questions about my perspectives on that, we can do that. But for now, what I want to get into is the top 25 political moments of 2023. Honestly, I wish I'd found this a couple days earlier. I probably would have started watching it on Sunday night. I really just discovered it today, and I was like, "Oh, this is so perfect. This is so perfect. This is so great. Forbes assembled this, and it's just some phenomenal clips, which give me so much opportunity to sort of interact and give you my thoughts on it. So that's what we're going to do. That is what we're going to do. Did you see the man show Predilections Indeed? Oh yeah, he's got all sorts of predilections. I'm telling you right, that dude, I think he has such deep insecurities. I think everything I've seen from him, the dude is internally, he recognizes that he's a loser. And I understand that the game of life has worked well for him from a fame and financial perspective, so it appears to the public. The dude is an empty sack. And he knows it. He's an empty sack. All right. He's got as much talent as Claudine Gay, essentially. All right. So this is from Forbes, and they did a phenomenal thing. They did a really good job here. And we're going to appreciate. So this video is 3.5 hours long. There's zero chance I'm going to cover all of it tonight. I'm going to be working my way forward, going through this. Because I was watching just one clip after another. I was like, wow, this is so much fun. This is fun. This, I don't know. I find it fun.
9 knows. the motion to table.
Mr. Chairman,
It passes. Yes, who seeks recognition?
I seek to strike the last, move to strike the last word.
The ranking member is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, in this last amendment by Ms. Scanlon,
Now, this is from May 10th, 2023. To point out to you, this is before Mike Johnson became Speaker of the House. This is when he's chairman of committee.
that was just ruled out of order. You ruled it out of order because it references a specific date. In my parliamentary universe, adding a specific date is considered a limiting amendment. It limits the scope of the underlying amendment. It does not expand it. Therefore, it cannot be a grounds for holding an amendment out of order, because it limits it. It doesn't expand it. It's called in parliamentary terms a limiting amendment, which is always permitted. So this is just another example.
All right, see, this is helpful. This is helpful. You're saying the video volume is low. Do all of you agree with that? That it's low, or is it? I'm still dealing with the imbalanced healing thing. All right, I want to get this. I want to get this out of the way. I mean, I have a feeling that this may ultimately be clipped, so I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this out of the way. This question that you're asking, Steve, this question that you're asking here relates to this super chat. Okay? All right. So let's get this out of the way. On my stream on Sunday evening, when I was doing the New Year's Eve stream. So Hydro came in here saying, I think that was the night that Hydro came in here. It might have been yesterday. I don't remember anymore. I don't really make a big note about this, but I think it was that night. And a few other folks popped in here because my name came up on Kiwi Farms because of an interaction exchange I had with Mandy, who's all over Kiwi Farms, and Nick, who's all over Kiwi Farms, and all that other stuff. Okay? So catfishing, to answer your question, Steve, is essentially a phenomenon. This is for all the other boomers out there who may not be familiar with the term. Catfishing is a reference to somebody who presents themselves online as being something that they are not, usually something that is considered more appealing, whether physically appealing or financially appealing, but basically trying to fool the internet as to who or what they are, for the purposes of getting love from the internet that presumably they may struggle to attain in real life. So the idea of exposing these people is called catfishing. It's not really catfishing when they manage to deceive someone. From my understanding, the term catfishing is actually exposing someone who is, or they'll call that person a catfish, I guess, the person who engages in that type of conduct. Whatever leads someone to engaging in that type of conduct, that type of conduct, that's really not my issue. Whatever issues Kiwi Farms has with Mandy or with Nick, it's not my issue. This is not my thing. Just because I've had Mandy on, a super chat me, or had, an engagement on where I have a call-in show. So I have like a 60-second thing there. I understand that a lot of you salivate over drama, which personally, I'll tell you right now, I think is really, really unhealthy. I think it's a terribly unhealthy thing, because basically your objective is, let's try and find some joy from bringing down someone else. And to me, it's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. Like I don't, and I understand the appeal to it. I understand why people do it. I get it. I understand it. Like it helps you feel better about yourself. To me, it's a different manifestation of the same thing that leads someone to doing catfishing. And I'm not saying this to be attacking or aggressive to any of you. What I'm saying is it's a similar type of psychological thing where you're trying to make yourself feel better. That's what your motivation is. That's the motivation of someone who's catfishing and trying to present to the internet that they are something other than what they are. That's the motivation of someone who goes around attacking others. And it doesn't just mean in this type of sphere. I'm not talking exclusively about whatever drama, people want to dig up or create or maybe actually discover about Mandy and Nick or whatever. I don't know. I don't know anything in the background there. I don't talk to him about this situation. I don't talk to her. I don't talk to her ever. And I don't talk to him about, I talk to Nick. I never talk to him about this situation. And I don't care. Okay, I'm urging every single one of you, and I'm not talking exclusively to this individual, but to every single one of you. I can promise you your life will be happier if you actually find things that you engage in that make you happy rather than reveling in trying to take down someone else. It's being productive is so much better than being destructive. And you have to recognize that whatever glee you're taking from, imagine everything you're saying is right. So you're asking this question: do I think Mandy is legitimately the person who has been presented on the internet, or do I think that it's some other person? I don't know. I haven't thought about it. And you know something? I don't care. There's so little I can. Why would it matter to me? Do I think that you're really a Hydro PX? No. I mean, do I think that this is a monk in training? No. It's the freaking internet. So stop taking glee. And I'm not saying this to protect anyone. I'm saying this for you individually who salivate over this sort of thing. You will be happier if you find pursuits where you raise yourself up, because I'm going to tell you something. In the game of life, you are not competing with that person. Whether you consider that person to be Mandy, you consider that person to be Nick, you consider that person to be some rival in your office, which is there at least there's some level of competition, or some other online celebrity or something like that. You are not going to find any genuine joy. It is a temporary, masturbatory emptiness that is so fleeting in the pursuit of trying to harm others and make yourself, well, at least I'm not that dude. At least I'm not that chick. And you get your momentary ha or momentary vindication, and maybe you're correct. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. What I'm saying is, and maybe you're totally incorrect in harming someone, but either way, what is the point? How are you benefiting from it? That's what I think you need to assess. And I don't see very much of a psychological difference between someone who is desperately trying to make themselves feel better, and it manifests in one of two ways: that they become a catfish, or they're desperate to try and expose a catfish. To me, they're mirror images of the same issue that a person is struggling within. And I'm not mocking that issue. A lot of Americans, a lot of people that I've met or known, and look, every person, myself, at certain points, I've dealt with certain like sort of various flaws within myself that you try and look at and say, why am I doing what I'm doing? And then you start working on changing your behavior and recognizing that there's a deeper issue within. I am urging you, for your own health, your own happiness, like, just stop fixating on this idiocy. Evolve beyond that. You have it within you. You do. So I'm talking to each and every one of you. Just grow beyond it. You will be happier. So you can throw at me super chat after super chat asking me this question or this reference to Mandy or that thing about Nick or whatever. And I'm telling you now, the only person you're actually harming when you do this is yourself. Because instead of addressing whatever issues are making you so gleeful in thinking that you've uncovered something, which you may actually have uncovered. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right. I'm saying I don't know. And thankfully, I don't care. That's reflective of a healthy mindset to say, you know what? Somebody out there doing whatever it is that they're doing, I don't care. I either enjoy engaging with them or I don't. And if they're presenting as something other than what they are, I don't care. I care about what they're able to, how their content is affecting me, without trying to sit here like I'm like some sleuth trying to like figure out, aha, you see, I got this. Aha, you see, like now I know. I'm so special. I'm so important. It's like, who cares? This is one individual out of 8 billion on the planet. You gotta work outside your own sphere at a certain point and just say, like, I don't care. I don't care. I've had drama with various people online who I've engaged with, which rarely will I ever discuss publicly. And I actually had an issue with like a small cadre of people who were like upset with me. I don't know, like a year ago, might be 2 years ago. I don't even remember anymore. And I basically said to myself, all right, fine. There's 300 people who today don't like me. All right, that happens. Who cares? It's like there's like 8 billion people out there. And just move on. Find things that make you happy, like actually happy, rather than the temporary fleeting moment of I was able to take someone down. That's what I'm urging for you. And I'm saying it for you as an individual. That's who, if you take my advice on this, you as the individual are the ones who will benefit more than anyone else. Someone tell Batman that Penguin's in Congress. Yeah, he does have a penguin type of effect. I'm going to go through these super chats really quick. And I don't know if there's anything relating to what I just talked about, but I just want to, and after this, I'm done with it. I'm putting it to bed. It's like I'm too old for this. I'm so thankful for my conversion to Joe Dez. Devout Joe. Catfishing is a scam. One tries to pull P2 or money through lying about oneself on the internet to a prospective victim. Well, I don't think anyone's trying to get money. So I'm a trout and salmon guy. Move on from the catfish. I want to just get this out of I wanted to get this over with, because otherwise it's constant just filtering into the chat. It's like such a waste of time. Joe, I'm a monk in training and you won $1 million. Send your bank info so we can confirm and wire your winnings to you. Thank you, Steve. Catfish are delicious. Little lemon yum. Yeah, they're not kosher. But... all right. Yeah, that's true. Even with fish, it has to be kosher. And kosher fish have fins and scales. It's really that simple. Can I get back to my show now? All right. So this is from May 10, 2023. This is before Mike Johnson, he's the chairman of this committee, but it's before he became speaker.
Example of the Republicans using obviously specious reasoning because you're afraid to vote on anything to do with January 6th. You're afraid to vote on all the things we've talked about before, because your constituents might hold you responsible. So I would ask you why this is not a limiting amendment. Why in what way this expands the scope of the amendment, and I'll yield to you for the purpose.
So they're talking about with the proposed bill, or they're structuring a proposed bill. And he's like, if you're going to take a bill that has all of this, and I say, let's include language that limits it, the language he wants to include is specifically referencing January 6th. And Mike Johnson is about to blow him up here. It's great.
I'll be happy to answer. We will belabor the point further. I've already explained this, that by presenting this amendment, it changes the purpose of the bill and makes it about January 6th. On its face, by your explanations, by all the comments that have been made, you want this to be about January 6th. You just said it again. You emphasize the same point. That's not what the underlying legislation is about.
You're claiming my time.
You asked me to respond, and I'm giving you.
You want to make this whole bill about January 6th.
The amendment violates House Rule 16, Clause 7. Now, you can disagree with me, but you're not the chairman anymore.
Oh!
I'm reclaiming my time. I certainly
Oh! You ain't the chairman no more. You ain't the chairman no more. You can disagree with me. You can sit here griping and sniping and also hooping and dooping and all sorts of misery and sit there just stewing in your juices, but you ain't the chairman no more.
do disagree with you.
And I want to say to our witnesses, thank you for being here, for standing up and showing us your courage. I'd like to focus a couple of questions and ask Ms. Gaines to respond.
I'm just going to welcome you to the following Netcat media saying you saw stuff man a day or two ago. My thought was, who cares? Yep. That's a healthy response. That's a really healthy response. Oh, you're welcome, Debbie. Yeah. Fins and scales. It's actually a question. There was actually a question like, why would the Torah have to say fins and scales? Because for the longest time, nobody ever saw a fish that had scales and did not have fins. So it could have just said scales. Like, it doesn't say fin, scales, and teeth, right? It has to have fin, scales, and teeth, but every one of those fish have teeth. So it doesn't say fins, scales, and teeth. So it only is mentioning stuff that is going to be limiting. It's got limiting in scope, like Jerry Nadler was pointing out. It would be throwing it in to limit and say not all fish with scales, but only the ones with scales and fins are kosher. And the question was, why would you have to put that limitation in? That's like saying, a fish that swims. That's not limiting anything, because everyone with scales has fish. And my brother told me about 10 years ago or so that they discovered a fish that had scales and no fins. And was like, that's the fish. That's the fish. It's crazy. So, yeah, there you go.
The evening that the attack on you happened, I think the whole country thought, how is this possible? You've had the courage to speak out on an issue that is very personal to you. I have 3 daughters, and to think about the issue that you're talking about and standing up for what you believe in, the freedom of speech, the First Amendment.
And this is Riley Gaines. In case you joined late and I'm familiar, Riley Gaines is a college swimmer who drew national attention because she had issues with having a trans woman in locker rooms with her when she was a collegiate swimmer. So, who was participating in, and she had all sorts of issues with trans men competing against her.
Amendment protects your ability to do that. And yet, San Francisco State University President Lynn Mahoney wrote a letter sympathizing those who attacked you. And I can't imagine how that has made you feel. I know how it's made me feel.
No, it's we've used the term domestic terrorists a lot in this hearing, and that's constantly something I get called by these same left-leaning protesters who, again, for simply saying women deserve fairness, we deserve safety, and we deserve privacy, and we deserve respect. And I get called a domestic terrorist.
And that's the most amazing thing to me. When she was saying this, I was like, it is such a 180. It's like, we're going to terrorize you. This is, domestic. The ones who are actually engaging in domestic terrorism are like, we're going to terrorize you and make you feel like you should be shunned and scream out how you're a terrible human being and everyone should blacklist you. And we're going to terrorize you while calling you a domestic terrorist for basically saying, hey, I'm an individual. I have certain rights. I have rights to privacy. I have rights to fairness. And that is what we're going to label terroristic. It's literally, it's not the pot calling the kettle black. It's the pot calling the soup black. It's like, where's their terrorism? There's no terrorism. It's a matter of just saying, give me fairness.
All the time. So this term for me, maybe I have a skewed perception of what it means. But yes, it's been I don't know. Again, it's just disheartening to be in the position I'm in, feeling like I'm asking for the bare minimum, feeling like I'm asking for something that is so simple that we all are entitled to, yet I'm being, held hostage. And there's one more piece I wanted to mention about this night that I haven't really touched on. I briefly touched on it in my testimony, but the verbiage outside the room, when I was still giving my speech, these protesters, the video doesn't do a good job showing of just how many were in these stairways. I mean, it was hundreds of people. But these people, they were outside the rooms, and one side of the hallway would yell, trans rights are under attack, and the other side would yell back, what do? We fight back. And they kept using the term, we fight back. And so after I'd finally been barricaded and I was in this room for a couple hours and they kept saying it, I'm like, why do they keep saying we
I don't.
fight back? And we've talked a lot about this stemming from the top in regards to Trump and January 6th and Tucker Carlson giving the license to people to basically do whatever they want but we're not talking about this on this side of it, because the day before this incident at San Francisco State, the Biden administration press secretary had a press conference where she says word for word, our trans community is resilient and they fight back. And I find it so ironic they were using the exact same verbiage, we fight back. They kept saying it continuously. And so I wanted to put that on the record because we've talked about it a lot stemming from the top.
That's what they say. We're fighting back. What are you fighting back? That's implying there's fighting, as opposed to like saying, hey, stop. You've been trampling my rights. You've been walking all over me. Stop walking all over me. And it's like, for saying stop walking all over me, we fight back. What do you mean fight back? You're just going to walk harder. You're going to stamp harder. You're not fighting back. You're not heroic. You're not brave or stunning or anything of the kind. And you're not standing up for anything that's stunning or brave. You're just more and more trampling. And yes, I use the word trampling, and I'm very proud to have come up with the word trampling.
On the other side, but I think it's crucial to understand that goes both ways.
Well, Ms. Gaines, thank you for your courage. Thank you for standing up for what you believe in. Any sort of threats or violence or intimidation is despicable. It has no place in our society. And to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, real courage lies in being able to stand up even when it's not popular, and even when you may not agree with it, but being able to stand up to a bully. And that's what this is. This is about a bully in our society for a narrative that some don't agree with, and it doesn't matter which side you stand on, but you have stood up to that bully, and I applaud you for doing that. And the country is watching you and your leadership, and we appreciate what you're doing. Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding this hearing and standing up to a bully. We should all condemn any violence that happens, and I think that that's exactly what this hearing is about.
I agree with that.
Well done, Mr. Pfluger. The gentleman yields back.
All right. We're going to come to John Kennedy next. And this issue that he's going to be addressing here is going to be about wealth taxes, which actually raises an interesting question. It raises some interesting philosophical questions. And I'm going to be addressing that momentarily. Karen Manning saying, Penn University replaced McGill with Julie Platt. Drum roll, she's Jewish, won't change a thing. And it's not because she's Jewish, it's because she's a Gino. She's not really even a Gino. Platt's not a very obviously Jewish name, although I believe Oliver Platt is Jewish. But yeah, I mean, look, it's possible. I'm not sure why you bring up the fact that she's Jewish. She's a lefty. That's what you know. I mean, yeah, many of the irreligious Jews are lefties, but it's not. I'm not sure why you're bringing that up, unless the point is that perhaps they specifically were looking for someone Jewish in order to basically say, to show a reversal of the perspective that, like, oh, we even hired a Jew. You know, it's like everyone loves, like the left loves saying, like, you know, Zelensky is Jewish. Stop calling them Nazis. Zelensky is Jewish. So it could be that it's sort of like that the puppet that they're putting up there to say, you see, all those statements about how it's okay to call for the genocide of Israel, or, you know, for the eradicate, for jihad, or whatever it is, that's the last one made the mistake of saying that's okay. So we're going to overcorrect by making sure that the person we're putting in here now is Jewish. And this way everyone will realize that, you know, we're pleading our mea culpa and pounding our chests in contrition, even though it's the most empty, stupid virtue signal move in the world. But all osteichthies fish have scales and fins unless it's an anomalous mutation. I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Okay. Torah also says that no sea creature exists with scales and no fins. I haven't seen that anywhere in the Torah. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I don't recall ever saying that. I do not recall seeing that. Look, it might be some commentators on the Torah, some rabbinic authorities who have said that no such fish exists, but I don't think Torah says that. Like, I don't think it's expressly anywhere in the Torah, from my recollection. And I've gone through the Torah a number of times now. But Drop Barracuda says, it's the kettle asking the pot, what the hell did you just call me? No, I think my analogy of, like, because this is not someone who's even cooking anything. You know, there's no blackness. It's the one being blackened. That's why I said that it's like the soup in the pot that's being called black by the pot. It's like, if I'm black, it's because of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Which, by the way, if I could do, they could put up a top 25 John Kennedy moments. This guy is so smart and so great at this. So great at this. Speaking of which, in case you're wondering, because I referenced that I was going to have a oral arguments this morning, which I did. Okay, and I'm just going to tell you this. Dang, I was on fire. I was on fire. That was one of the best oral arguments I've ever had. I was so sharp today. Oh my God. I just found my zone and I was just but like calmly, just decimating point by point by point. I think doing this has actually has actually made me better, because I'm just sort of like go up there and I'm just I have a better feel now for when to embrace a passion that's brewing within me versus when to dial it back, and how many decibels to raise it to. I have a much better feel for that from having done this. So yeah, I just sort of feel like I don't know. I have a different. I'm operating on a different level now. It just felt really good. Felt really good.
Dr. Yagan, yeah, am I saying your name right? Tell me, if you were king for a day and you could rewrite America's tax code, tell me the 3 changes you would make.
I'm just dropping facts. Just telling you. I'm dropping facts. I know when I'm in a zone, and I know when I'm not. I know when I'm in a zone, I know when I'm not. And today I was in a zone. And I'm finding that I'm finding it easier to find my zone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find it easier and easier to just naturally fall into that zone, as opposed to like hoping to get there.
Number 1, I would equalize labor and capital tax burdens at the top. There are a couple ways of doing that. The billionaire minimum income tax is one that would move in that direction. I won't rehash those details. Senator Johnson actually talked about a corporate tax integration type.
What's number 2?
Sure. Number 2, part of closing the labor and capital disparity is closing the Gingrich-Edwards loophole. Number 3 is ending abuse of trusts. So the estate tax has been eviscerated. Many of those, you take assets that you know are worth a lot.
Yeah,
right now they're purportedly worth a little because you haven't taken your company public. You put them into a trust, it explodes.
Do you support a wealth tax? Do you know what I mean by wealth tax?
I do know what you mean by wealth tax. The billionaire minimum income tax taxes income.
I don't know that I won. I'm not going to know until I get a decision. which could be next week, could be in 30 days. Technically, it could be in 60 days under New York rules and regulations. Frequently, they go beyond the 60 days. So, but thank you. Hopefully, all I know is this. If I didn't win, I'm going to be very bummed about it. As opposed to, like, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I see why I didn't win that one. This one really bothered me. If I don't win on this one, I'm gonna be very bummed. Karen AV. Oh, thank you for the super sticker. I was noting this. Scales, no fins, Mishnah, Anita 6-9. That's a Mishnah. That's not expressed in the Torah.
And that, I think, is the way forward in that space.
Well, let me be a little more precise.
And the reason I'm saying it's a Mishnah, not in the Torah, is to basically point this out. What Mishnah is written by rabbinic authorities. It was the first writing of oral law was in Mishnah. And that was roughly 2,000 years ago. Yeah, well, a little less than that. So that was written by rabbinic authority, and that is a reflection of what the rabbinic authority knew in its day, because they hadn't discovered one yet. But I need to pull up that Mishnah to see exactly how they word it.
Do you think appreciation of assets that are not sold, unrealized gain, should be taxed?
I think you should have to prepay tax on it that will eventually be due at sale, gift, or bequest.
What do you mean prepay the tax?
Sure. So if I have $5 billion of unrealized capital gains, I have $5 billion of taxable income, and I'm currently paying $1.5 billion on that. So that's a 15% overall tax rate.
Well, let's let's don't complicate this. I want to understand
Sure.
what you're saying. Let's suppose an American owns a piece of real estate they inherited from their father or their mother. And it was, when they inherited it, they got step up in basis, it's worth $100,000. And all of a sudden the interstate came through. And the property is now worth $1 million if they sell it. But they don't plan to sell it. They're going to leave it to the kids. Do you think that Americans should have to pay tax on the unrealized gain, the increase in value?
In general, no. At that level of wealth, for example, housing.
You think only wealthy people should?
At the very top, it's hard to tax,
But let me be sure understand what you're
Sure.
saying. All right, let's suppose that's not just an average American. Let's suppose that's an American. What do you define as rich?
In the minimum income tax, it's $100 million of wealth or more.
Okay,
That's
so
How are you assessing who has $100 million or more? Like, how are you assessing this? And look, it's very easy to say, let's go after the uber wealthy. And $100 million, I think, is genuinely, like, really wealthy. I don't like it's so difficult. It depends on what yardstick you're using to measure someone's net worth to figure out who qualifies under this, and to assess based on when you're assessing based on that yardstick, the value of the property that's not being sold. So you want them to prepay taxes in expectation that one day they're going to sell it is kind of ridiculous when you consider that, like, they don't even have the money in hand for it. So what are you're going to force it? So what if they don't have the cash for it? Now, he addresses this momentarily, but even what he's saying doesn't make sense.
you think if you're really wealthy, you should have to pay a tax on your unrealized gain?
I think you should have to partially prepay if you're liquid, if you have liquidity to pay.
If you have the cash. And who's assessing that? Are we going based on their bank accounts? I mean, most few people who actually are uber wealthy keep a lot of that in cash. So what's considered liquid? If they have bonds that are convertible, what is considered liquid? This is so.
Do
And
you
then-
think, somebody, why can't you economists answer questions? Should any American have to pay tax on unrealized gain? Why can't you just answer me?
Yes, there are some who should.
Who?
The ultra wealthy who have liquidity should prepay some tax.
What
on
if they
that.
don't have liquidity?
They should not have to pay, and they will owe at sale, bequest, or gift.
So if you have cash, you ought to have to pay, but if you don't have to pay?
Are we going to keep monitoring them? Oh, now you got a cash inflow? At what point are you assessing their levels of cash? This is so dumb. This is so dumb. See, this is virtue signaling about what laws we should pass. If things are like, oh, this will make things better. This will make things better. This is exactly the sort of nonsense that Congress will tend to pass and then basically say, you see, we clamped down. The Democrats would love to pass something like this and say, you see, we had to fight through the Republicans, but now we scored a huge win now that and fighting against the uber wealthy. And if Republicans fight against it, they'll be like, you see, they're standing up for the rich. When it's like, this wouldn't do anything. Anything. Nothing.
Prepay. I have in my testimony, there are examples of how this works so that you can preserve incentives to build a new company, take it public.
Okay,
While
what do you
also-
think, Dr. McBride? Do you think we should start taxing unrealized gains? And what do you think that'll do to the economy?
Well, I have several concerns about the approach. The first of which is it's completely untested. It's never been tried in this country. We have more than 100 years of history with the income tax, and
Europe's tried it, haven't they?
no, they've tried wealth taxes.
Yeah.
Their experience
that
with
turn
wealth
out?
taxes has
How did
been
that turn out?
bad. It
Why is
resulted
that?
in a lot of taxpayers exiting the country, for one thing. In France, for instance, other countries that have tried it. And you suddenly lose a big chunk of your tax base that you're trying to tax there. We have that option in this country as well. The result has been that most of those countries in Europe that have tried a wealth tax have rolled them back,
Yeah.
including France, because they were administratively challenging. The basic challenge is what you're describing, trying to value assets without real market transactions. So this is a evaluation dispute. It means we get the IRS engaged in yet another challenge. They're currently doing this with the estate tax. Those estates that are subject to the estate tax, those valuation episodes can go years and years and years.
Can I have 30 more seconds?
Proceed.
Dr. Is it Clausen? Clausen?
Yes.
Yeah. What?
So that dude is like, no, this is not going to work. It doesn't work. You're just chasing away people and you're going to end up losing. This is like a failure waiting to happen. But the left hates looking at examples that might be enlightening if it runs counter to the narrative.
Why do you and Dr. Yagan, why do y'all want to punish wealthy people?
I think I can speak for both of us that we're not interested in punishing anyone. We're interested
Well,
in
you're
having
interested
a
in taxing
fiscal
the hell out of them
system.
more than anybody else.
I think
Why,
the
what makes you
reforms
think?
that
What
Professor
makes you think that making tax policy on the basis of class or status makes sense?
I think it's a very American phenomena that throughout the history of the income tax, we have valued progressivity, and our current income tax does that. We used to rely on things like tariffs to raise revenue. Tariffs are regressive consumption taxes that disproportionately hurt the poor. Like, we believe in this country that those with the greater ability to pay should pay more of the burden. And that's part of what a healthy capitalism does. It enables.
No, that's not what a healthy capitalism does at all. That's what Marxism is. A healthy capitalism is slightly Marxist, slightly socialist.
people to gain from things like trade and technological change and business innovation, and to contribute a little more to the fiscal system when they're very successful in doing so. And I think that that's a very legitimate way to structure the tax system.
Can
and
I,
kind of-
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why do you think so many wealthy people are leaving New York City?
New York City is, an incredible city of innovation, immigration,
Yeah, but why?
entrepreneurship.
So that's why they're leaving, right? That's why they're leaving. Like, I'm not answering your question at all. New York City is wonderful.
So many wealthy
Yeah.
people leaving?
I think there are big advantages to living near centers of entrepreneurial activity, and we see that
This is why they're fleeing. I'm totally ignoring your question.
on the
You
West
think
Coast
they're
as well.
leaving to be nearer to centers of entrepreneurial activity, do you?
Well, I don't think there are a lot of people, fleeing New York City. That New York City has.
Sure they are. There are thousands. I mean, there've been study after study after study. Why are so many wealthy people leaving New York City?
I think there's an enormous number of wealthy people who are in New York City and continue.
But why
to
are so
very-
many leaving?
I can't speak to why particular people.
I can
leave.
tell you
I
why.
know
It's
that-
taxes. You know that as well as I do. It's
I
taxes.
think if you look at the economic,
Some of it's crime, but most of it is taxes.
well,
People vote with their feet. The same reason that people are leaving California and moving to Austin.
if you look at California, it's one of the most successful economies in the world, and it continues to be so. It attracts people.
But they're
as
losing
well.
people.
I don't think it's in any danger of decline, nor is New York City. And these are very
Okay.
vibrant places.
I don't think we're going to
for
ever
fundamental
agree.
reasons.
I don't think it's any signs of decline as long as you don't try walking the streets of San Francisco. In which case, you're almost certainly going to have to scrub off the scrapings from your shoe multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to ever agree.
Yeah, let's don't confuse
But
me with the
I
fact.
appreciate the time of all three of you.
Thank you.
Rosh Hashanah 15 pleads is named, the Kamiya is named that because there's hundreds of stars confirmed by Hubble telescope. How'd they know that? Well, I'm not going to sit here talking. I mean, I'm not, this show isn't about establishing the divinity of Torah. So
To be fair, there also are people moving the other way. There are people who move to New York. They just don't all leave from New York. It's a two-way street in and out of New York. And it's a two-way street between Austin and California. People leave Texas and go to California, and some of them do very well.
Well, that's true, Sheldon, but I can show you study after study after study, as you well know, and as the professor knows. It shows that people are leaving high-tax states and moving to low-tax states. All you have to do is.
Well, they
look at
also
the-
leave.
All you have to do is look at the demographics. Pick the 9 states that have, say, a state income tax and compare that, or that don't have a state income tax, and compare that to the states that do. It's called tax avoidance, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly legal.
People have different preferences. If you look at where immigrants choose to live in the United States, they often go to those same places.
the immigrants aren't worried about taxes. This is the stupidest thing in the world. You're not proving the point. You're not disputing the point. You're actually proving it. It's like, yeah, sure. Were you going to get more freebies because you're struggling economically? And yeah, a lot of people are struggling economically. So they're voting with their feet too.
You were talking about, so I do think that, there's movement in.
What you're basically saying is that, yeah, that these wealthy states are depleting their own wealth by raising taxes, by chasing out, by encouraging more impoverished people to come and increasing the burden on the public and chasing away those who are able to support the public.
In both directions.
Yeah, but here's
Yeah.
here's my point.
Mhm.
Here's what I think rational people do, and here's what I bet all three of you would do, and I bet Sheldon would do it because he's a smart guy. Okay, if
Objection, I'm not a smart guy.
he won the lottery tomorrow and won $10 million and paid his taxes and has $6 million left, he's going to at least consider, you are too, moving to Florida. Because
I
they don't have
wouldn't.
a state income tax.
No, I mean,
For the record, no, I wouldn't. Never crossed my mind.
Well, I don't mean you're irrational. Sheldon, you know that.
It can be quite rational to not want to
But
live
when
in
you're
Florida right
liquid,
now.
when you're liquid,
Mhm.
and you don't have to pay a 6% off the top versus 0%, it's a rational economic move, is it not?
Yeah, I agree. It's rational. I mean, the thing about taxes that we're talking about is they're a cost or a price, and so claiming that this cost or price doesn't matter is essentially throwing out the very basic law of demand, the basic fundamental idea in economics. The prices matter, the costs matter.
See, this is what this always boils down to, and there's no way we'll ever agree, okay? But at least two of you believe that government, all things being equal, can spend a dollar better than people can.
And that's what it boils down to.
That's your this is America. You can believe that.
For the record, that's not in their testimony.
I just don't agree with you. I think people can spend the dollar better, all things being equal. And all you have to do, if you know the history of government, you know that I'm right. But I don't expect you to agree with me because you're professors. Okay? Thanks, Sheldon.
How does anyone not love this guy? How does anyone not love him?
Always entertaining. Senator Kennedy, thank you so much for being here.
There we go.
Thank you. God bless you, everybody. God bless you.
I want you to know something. When I was watching this clip, I was like, I don't think I've really heard him speak very much. Like I was like, I don't know what his policies are anymore. I just, what do I know about Donald Trump in 2023? That he's been hit with 4 criminal charges in 4 different cases. But he hasn't been like, and I know he's been stumping, but it's not like he's been showing up at debates. And I'm not about to go down to the states where he's stumping. He's not stumping in a state near me, that's for sure. So, yeah. So I was like, this is good. I got to hear his thoughts for about 7 minutes or so.
God bless you. And now God bless me, because I'm going to take a couple of questions, okay? Where are we going to go with the questions? Do we have a mic at some point? Do we have a little mic? Oh, go ahead, please. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gerard. Thank you for the shout out earlier. I appreciate that. One of the issues we are super passionate about at the New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women is women's sports and keeping biological men out of women's sports and out of women's bathrooms.
Right.
We recently released a statement calling out Chris Pappas and Ann Custer for voting against the Protection of Women's and Girls Sports Act. So how do we ensure that women can compete on an even playing field and feel safe when it comes to this issue?
Vote for Trump. That's how you do it. Okay? You're going to have no problems. You got me on that one before it was even an issue. It's the craziest thing. And it's amazing. It's a good statement and or question, but so many people, they hear it, they can't even believe it. They can't even believe what's going on with that subject. No, you vote for Trump. That's going to be totally gone. Okay? Go ahead, please. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Frank Dawson, and thank you for the phone call 3 years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
Thank you very much. You are the man.
Thank you very much.
I would like to ask you a question concerning the military.
Okay.
Do you promise the veterans out there, guarantee them that you will make our military stronger as it was before you were pushed out of office, and you will return, and also make a promise to all law enforcement, all legitimate law enforcement, that you will protect and support them all the way?
So I remember the call. I don't know why, but I have a good memory. But I remember the call very much. I appreciate the love with that statement, not just a statement. The answer is yes. We rebuilt our military. We have the finest equipment in the world. We had jets that were 48 years old, where the grandfather was flying them. Some of the bombers, the grandfather was flying them, and now the grandson is flying them. Now we're redoing our military. We redid a lot. As you remember, I made Space Force, and they tried to end it as soon as they came into office.
This is a great point, by the way. This is a great point that Pam makes, that everyone just ignores. That drag queens are the equivalent to blackface for women. Like, imagine someone became trans black and was wearing blackface all the time and say, no, I really am. I mean, we see people that are called wiggers, which,
it's just, which is a reference to white people who are imitating black culture. But I assume because they're wearing wigs. But almost definitely that's what it is, because they're wearing wigs. So yeah, but and that's sort of a derogatory term for them, and they're not even putting on blackface. But imagine if they put on blackface because they're like, no, I am black. I'm black. I'm, you would think that they probably would face a great deal of backlash. That's what I want to see happen. My God. If someone could identify as a woman, why can't they identify as being black? There was a woman like that, I think, who did something like that, but I don't think she actually colored her face. I think coloring the face would be the real test of it.
And they had a revolt in the military. We created Space Force. That's the first time in 78 years since the Air Force that something like that's been done, creating a new branch. So the answer is yes, 100%. You will be satisfied. Not only that, the veterans are very satisfied, 92%. But now, in other words, we had an approval rating. The VA. We got approved where you can fire sadists and sick people. You couldn't fire them no matter what they did. You couldn't fire them because of lots of reasons. I won't blame civil service. I won't blame unions. I won't blame anyone. You couldn't fire them. And we got that done. And we also got it done where you can go out and get your own doctor, and we pay, because some of the veterans, as you know, were online for weeks and months. Some of them became terminally ill, waiting to get just a very simple procedure or prescription. They'd have to wait 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. And we made it, you understand this, those two things were very important. The ability, we fired, I think, 12,000 people. They were sadists. They wouldn't attack these people in prime time, I can tell you. But they were sadists, they were thieves, they had some very bad people. We got rid of them. We actually had that passed in the legislature. They've been trying to do it for 48 years. And then on the other, as you know, that was a big deal. If you have to wait online for any more than 24 hours, you have the right to go out and get a doctor, get yourself taken care of, and we pay the bill. And that worked out unbelievably well. You know that's true. That's why they like us. But the answer is yes, we'll take care of it, okay? Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Christine Peters, also from the New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women.
Good.
And 2 of the top 3 issues that women are concerned about right now are inflation and the economy. And how do things like the environmental social governance play into all of the economic issues that are facing women?
Well, they do. And, you have these fanatics, the environmental fanatics. I'm an environmentalist. A lot of you are very, you want.
I don't like questions which basically are fixating on a demographic, like economic issues that are facing women. It's not like women are facing different economic issues than men are. Like, I don't even understand. Oh, I'm a woman, so I'm facing different economic. What? In what sense are they? But
we want clean water. We want clean air. Nobody wants dirty air and water and other things. So, but you have to be reasonable. These people are crazy. They're putting windmills all over the place. They're going all over windmills. The birds are, you want to see a bird cemetery? Go under a windmill sometime. And they're made in China.
Are single mothers facing different financial issues than single fathers? You can say single parents.
So, and causing a lot of problems, very expensive. But I will say this, we will take care of this inflation by going and drilling. You know the sign.
But is that exclusively a woman issue?
They have Con Edison in New York, utility. They used to have a sign, dig we must, drill we must. We must drill. And we did some job. We had it down to below $1.87 for a period of time, gasoline. And what a difference that made. When they came in and they closed everything down, they got rid of Anwar. Anwar, since Ronald Reagan, they've been trying to. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Bush couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. I got it done. The biggest site probably in the world, drilling in Alaska, they ended it the first day of the Biden administration. I mean, you think about it. They ended it the first day.
Yep, he's talking about the Keystone Pipeline, which happened on literally the day that Biden came into office.
Day of the Biden administration, a site that would have been almost the size of Saudi Arabia, maybe bigger, and they ended it. But we'll do it again. We can do it again. We'll get it done again. When you reduce the price of energy, everything else is going to come down. And when everything else comes down, what we'll be able to do is get the interest rates down, and we're going to get our country back. Because our country, the way it's going right now, is going into a depression. We're going into a depression, like a 1929 type depression.
Like a 1929 depression.
But we're going to drill. We're going to get energy down, everything else. When they held it back, the energy became so oppressive, so expensive, that everything went up, and you had inflation at a level that you hadn't seen in 52 years, and it's still horrible. But we're going to bring energy down, way down. We're going to get the interest rates down. We're going to get back to a great life. We're going to strengthen up our military. And we're going to be able to deal with China and Russia and everybody. And they're not going to play with us. They're not.
The issue is not production, it's distribution. That's why he was creating the pipeline. That's the issue. That's always been the issue.
Not going to play with us. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
Is it on? Okay. God bless you, President
Thank you
Trump.
very much. God bless you.
My name's Christine. I'm from Atkinson, New Hampshire, and engaging with young voters is crucial. Here in New Hampshire, we have American First warriors like Caroline Levitt. How do you plan to engage with Gen Z voters?
Well, I think we're doing that. And I'll tell you what, you would be shocked, like Charlie Kirk and others, the job that they do with their.
And I want to congratulate you, Adrian, for finishing with the highest points in the league. In the final week of the season. Thank God I didn't play you in the Super Bowl. Oh my God. Your team's surging. The lone woman in the league finished week 17 with 159 freaking points. So you go. Look, I know you had a rough start of things, but my God, I have a feeling you come back next year, you're gonna be a force to reckon with. 159 freaking points. Did a really great job tinkering with your team. It was too little, too late, but that's. I was watching how I was like, oh my God, thank God she's not in the playoffs. Thank God she got eliminated early because your team, yeah. But Rachel Dolezal is the name that I'd forgot that I was searching my brain for. I remember something to that. So, yeah. I don't think she put on blackface. That's the difference. She just like sort of tanned herself, but I don't think she put on blackface. That's what I want to see, because that's what drag queens are, right? I mean, drag queens are putting on woman face. That was Pam's point.
Their youth, it's a youth movement. It really is. That's another movement. You would be shocked to see how popular we are on college campuses. Much different than what you read, much different than what you hear. But, you know, one of the things about having this horrible thing take place where 4 years of, we've lived in 4 years of hell in this country in many ways, more ways than you even know. But one of the things is they have shown how bad they are. And we'll be able to do things now to get it straight out. We have to make our cities safe again. We have to clean up our areas. We have to get things going in this country again. They've shown how. We'll do one more. How about one more? Go ahead. Now, this is a bad question, or if I don't give a great answer, I'll do another one. Because, you know, Elton John said, encores are very dangerous. You do a fantastic concert. Everyone's going crazy. Then you do an encore of a song. It's good. Then you do another.
This is actually a life lesson that he's giving right here. This is a life lesson about knowing when to leave and to leave on a high. This is so important. And this is something that, because he understands marketing, which is probably, that's probably where he's a savant. That's probably where he's savant, is that he does understand marketing. And his haters can resent him for that. And they'll label him as a con artist or whatever. The dude is a savant in understanding how people think. Yes. So I don't think he's a savant at reading people. That's where I think he struggles. But he's a savant at how to sell and sell himself. And hence 76 million votes. Well, that was partially because of phenomenal policies, but that's how he got it in 2016. That's how he won primaries. So he understands you must leave on a high. You can't have a great show and then finish on a low, because then that's what people remember.
Another encore, and the song doesn't work. And you leave. Everyone said, what a rotten job. But you're never going to say that about Trump, right? Let's go.
President Trump, my name is Brendan, and I would just like to know, what is your plan for dealing with the growing threat of North Korea?
North Korea has been a good example of what...
Better to leave an hour early than 1 minute too late. Yep.
Intelligence is, I got along great with Kim Jong-un. We had a very tough start. I called him Little Rocket Man. I called him Rocket Man. I called him lots of things he called us. And then one day I got a phone call and they said, we want to get...
He's talking about Elton John, life lessons he learned from Elton John. And then I don't know if he realized that he did that. I call him Little Rocket Man. Rocket Man.
Together. And the Olympics in South Korea was coming up. Nobody bought it. They weren't selling anything. And all of a sudden, I got North Korea to participate in the Olympics, and the thing sold out like in 2 days. It was incredible.
So I'm just going to point this out here, okay? I'm going to point this out. I think that's total BS what he just said. I don't have to look that up. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say this. Just psychologically. I don't buy for a second that potential purchasers of Olympic tickets were like, I don't know. Oh, North Korea's in. Oh, now I gotta go. Now I gotta get in the door. Oh, I have to see the North Korean athletes. If before I thought North Korea wasn't going to be in there, forget it. Why am I bothering? Why even going? That's like, that's like all of a sudden, you're taking the Yankees out of the league. Why would you do that? But now that I know North Korea is going to be there, all of a sudden tickets are going like hockey. Like, how does that add up, Don? How does that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Now I see something like that and I just laugh and I'm like, all right, that's Trump bravado. That's Trump bravado. The left sees that, they're like, you're a liar. You're a con artist. You're trying to bring your own. Everyone make love you. I got North Korean and the place sold out in 2 minutes. They couldn't sell a ticket beforehand. Yeah, they had Russia. Yeah, they had America. Yeah, they had all the EU. Yeah, they had the entire Far East aside from one stupid little 6x6 country. Once I got that country in. All right.
We did a great job with North Korea. We will be able to deal with North Korea. I don't think this administration will be able to deal with North Korea. Okay, one more. Go ahead, one more.
He's like, I don't love that question.
Yes, ma'am.
Finale.
President Trump, I believe most Americans can agree that the radical left's defund the police movement was destructive to our police force.
It's still going on too, by the way.
Absolutely. When you are president, what will be done to correct the getting our police up to par with proper training, with proper numbers, and get them back on track?
That's a fair point. You're saying there was a security concern. Okay. All right. Maybe that's what he meant. You're saying there was a security concern.
ended once North Korea became participants. Okay, all right, that makes a little more. That definitely makes a little more sense.
So you're talking to the right person. We are taking care of our police. I did, when I was in office, we had billions of dollars worth of Army equipment, Marine equipment, naval equipment, billions in storage rooms all over the United States. And Obama didn't want to get it out because he said it looked too tough. It didn't look good to give it. I said immediately, get it out. I gave billions and billions of dollars. You know what I'm talking about. All of this ex-military equipment. It was incredible. And for safety.
It was incredible.
Including trucks that were armor plated. I gave it all to the police. We got it out. It was sitting there drawing dust, but very valuable stuff. We took care of our police. We are going to take care of our police, and we're going to make sure that we support our police, because our police can solve the problems of our cities instantaneously if you let them do their job. And we love our police, and we love our firemen and everybody else that does. But we have to support them, and we can't have them be afraid.
Yeah, injuries are a killer. Injuries are a killer. I was very blessed in that. I especially in this league, I didn't really face anything catastrophic to CMC or anything like that. Yeah, losing Chubb is painful. Burrows was but Chubb is a big deal.
That if they use one wrong word, their life is ruined. We can't let that happen. And one other thing, they do an incredible job. And you have bad apples. Every once in a while, something happens. It shouldn't happen. And we have to understand things like that can happen. We have to support our police. These are great American patriots. They used to do a job. Now they're not allowed to do the job. We have to allow, especially in our cities that are rotting and decaying, we have to let our police back. We have to let them do the job that only they can do. They're fantastic people, and we are with them, and we're going to help fund them. We're not defunding. We're going to fund our police. Thank you. Great question.
Go fund them.
Ladies and
that's
gentlemen,
a policy I'm getting
I
from
want to
him.
thank you. This is an incredible place.
So what I took from this, by the way, was that he's going to be funding the police and doing everything he can to bring down the price of oil, so that, and figuring that that's going to help repair the economy. Those are two things that make sense. So I kind of like that. I'm just looking ahead to what he's pitching. He's going to actually bring to the table when he is sworn in on January 20th, 2025. So
It was a great day. I enjoyed it so much. I want to thank Steve and all of these incredible endorsers, because that's a record-setting endorse. But I want to thank you all. God bless you all. We'll be back. God bless you all. That's good.
The gentlelady from Georgia, Miss Green.
That was quite entertaining from someone that had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy, and everyone knows it. But
I moved to take her words down.
Now, I haven't checked my poll. I put this poll up when I was announcing this show. I was announcing this show on YouTube, so I frequently, in the community, when I put an announcement up, I'll put a poll up. I haven't checked my poll results. I am curious what they are, so I'm going to share them with you now. We'll see how they're looking. My poll was your one syllable thoughts on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's what we got. Ooh has 40%. Ew has 11%. Who is 13%, and is 35%. All right, I like that poll. I think that's a good poll. That's a solid poll. Very, very solid poll. And yeah, I'm sort of in the camp. I'm in the camp. But I think this was a very solid poll. I'm very proud of this one. All right, let's get back to work. Let's see what she's got. I like that she's starting off hitting Swalwell about Fang Fang. In the home, baby, Fang Fang.
Completely inappropriate. Yeah, stand by just a second while we
Completely
research
inappropriate. We're researching the rules to see whether or not we can publicly discuss the fact that Swalwell is fanging a Chinese spy.
Rule, give me just a second.
I need to reclaim make sure I have my full 5 minutes.
It's an interesting thing. Because she didn't. Is that disparate? You're not supposed to be disparaging other members. Is that disparaging? Doesn't seem complimentary. It doesn't seem
Motion
very.
has been made. The gentleman will, the committee will suspend, and the gentleman will state the words that he wishes taken down.
Everything that the gentlelady from Georgia has said.
No, you need to be more
The
specific.
accusations. Tell us exactly the words. Tell us. We need you to actually say the words yourself. But I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Oh my gosh. I hope you do. I hope you say it. I hope you say something like slightly different. Make him say that too.
Of an affair with a Chinese spy. Those are engaging in personalities, and those.
It's really not about personality. It's about things you've done. It's not really an ad hominem. It's more of a matter of like things that he's done. Now, maybe what he's done, most people would call an ad hominem. You know, if I say that, you know, he basically is. I think that technically, I think she's in the right here. I think she's in the right.
Words should be taken down, and the gentlelady should not be able to speak anymore in this hearing.
Not be allowed to speak. Silencer! Silencer!
That is not the latter part of that is not an appropriate motion, but we will evaluate the striking of those words. Give me just a second.
These are actions. If he went and was stumping for like, you know, Hitler Youth, which I'm not saying he would ever do. I don't really believe he would do that. But I'm saying if anyone had done that, and he and the statement had been, that's a pretty weird comment coming from someone who was marching with the brown shirts. Well, yeah, is that an ad hominem attack? I don't think that's an ad. You're just talking about what you've done. So I don't know. I think they're going to struggle with. I think they really would struggle with this.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Georgia and asks if she would like to retract those words.
No, say no.
No, I will not.
Yes. That's great. Let's all have a vote. Let's have a vote on whether you think what you think Swalwell did with Fang Fang. Now I don't know. I don't know what the rules are with respect to an unproven allegation that someone makes about someone. Right? It's not an ad hominem. It's an unproven allegation. Because yeah, did he know? Did he have some sort of relationship with Fang Fang? You know, it could be a purely work environment type of relationship. That's firmly well established. That's difficult for him to refute. But as far as him having a personal, intimate type of relationship with Fang Fang, I don't know that has been proven. There's simply been allegations and pictures which lead people to surmise. So when it comes to unproven allegations, like let's say, you know, let's say Fang Fang went missing, which I think she did. And he said that's a pretty interesting allegation from somebody who Epsteined Fang Fang. Well, that sounds like a bit of a crazier assertion. And you can understand why they'd say, hey, you're not able to make these false accusations against people. That could be the issue. That could be the issue. I'm loving how they're having all these issues with, like, what do we do with this statement? We don't know what to do with this statement. What do the rules say we do with this statement? Keep smiling to the camera. Everyone tell us what we're supposed to say. Let's ask our clerks here to go look at the rules so that we can all figure out what we're supposed to do at this point, because we're not really sure what we're supposed to do. That was pretty good ventriloquism, I think.
For those members who are wondering, we are looking into Clause 1 of Rule 17 in the Rules of the House.
Fed funding of local police. What could go wrong? Fair enough. JFC. The only thing the right can do is nominate this guy. Stop, Joe. That's the only thing the left should be doing. You should be doing it. You should be doing it, Cynthia. That would be your way of thumbing your nose at political persecutions. You fancy yourself a classical liberal? You want to have a healthy republic? That's what you should do. You should be like, these political persecutions are not a healthy way for us to go. Cynthia, I'm not going to stop until you commit to voting for Donald Trump for president in 2024. When that happens, I will know my work here is done. That's when I will know my work is done. When I finally wake you up into the desperate need America has to elect someone, if for no other reason than to show the left, to show the world that political persecutions are not ever to become a thing in this country. You should stand with that. I'm pretty sure you regard yourself as a classical liberal, and every American should recognize this. So yeah, I almost feel like they forced my hand here, where despite knowing fairly little about what his political policies are, his campaign stumping promises are, that I feel almost like I got no choice. Left sort of forced me and saying, you know what? This is our guy. Because if we don't do that, a lot of people on the left think that if he wins, it will be the fall of the republic, or they would say the fall of the democracy because they suck at civics. I'll tell you right now, if he doesn't win, if he's not in office, that is a terrible sign of the self-destruction of this country. This is a no-win situation. This is a Kobayashi Maru we're in right here. We're in a Kobayashi Maru. And I'm urging you to recognize the desperate need we have to put him in office, whether you hate him or not. That's when I'll know I'm done. Give me your commitment. Give me your promise, your blood oath, your DNA, your affidavit. 1 year ago, Matt Gaetz stood up for Swalwell on Tim Pool. Apparently, Fang Fang came about long before he was in Congress when he was running City Water. I think Matt Gaetz was dealing with his own personal issues a year ago. Just saying, I bet MTG weighs as much as a duck. I know what you say. They put this nose on me. She's called Fang Fang. I see what you did there. I see what you did. I love when the big wigs are all sitting there waiting for the clerks to figure out what they're supposed to do. I think it's funny. Apparently none of them know what the rules are. Not really sure. There's little Benny Thompson in the side there. Whispering with Swalwell. Whisper, whisper. No. But wait, so you did this? What did she do then? Okay, what'd she do? Oh, yeah, you see my technique? Oh. No, I'm not into the Asians. I'm not really into the Asians. Oh, yeah, no, you should try them.
Okay, the chair rules that those words that were spoken are not going to be stricken from the record.
Nice!
Mr. Chair.
Huzzah! That's a win for freedom of speech.
Gentlemen,
Mr. Chairman.
the gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
I don't think there's any question about what the young lady said. I've been on this committee.
Yeah, I agree with you that America needs God. I'm talking about the message we need to send. I'm not saying he's a savior. Don't get me wrong, Pam. I'm not saying that he's a savior. I'm simply saying that we need to put an end to these political persecutions. And the best way to put an end to it is if it blows up in their face. That's how you put an end to it. That's how it won't happen. The best way for it to stop is if they see it's a failure, that it's has the exact opposite effect. That's how. So I'm not saying that he's inspired by God. I'm simply saying man has to make choices based on what seems most logical and reasonable in the given moment, based on what seems foreseeably to be of long-term benefit to man. And right now, that's all. This is what we got.
From day one, we've never had an accusation made of any member like that. And I'm appalled at it. We all ought to be embarrassed at it. We are better committed than what the young lady is trying to make of this committee. So I appeal the ruling of the chair.
The ruling of the chair.
See, now I have to give credit to Mr. Benny Thompson there for the way that he phrased that. That was a very there was an air of sagacity, which I can appreciate. He's like, look, let's not devolve into this. This is beneath us. All right. We'll see how that works.
Chair has been appealed. We will now, gentleman moves.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order.
Yep.
Right over here. Could you explain what part of those words are not engaging in personalities and what the basis of your ruling is?
It's an action. It's not a personality.
No, we're going to let the vice chair take over the committee at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to table the motion.
There's been a motion to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion to table is agreed to.
Mr. Chair.
The gentleman is recognized.
Yeah, roll call.
Request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote has been requested.
Oh, here you go. Roll call.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, would the gentleman from New York, Mr. Goldman, yield?
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McCall.
One statement from MTG puts the entire committee into such a tizzy.
Aye.
Mr. McCall votes aye. Mr. Higgins. Mr. Guest.
Streisand affect much? Like it would have been forgotten so long ago. But Streisand affect much?
Mr. Bishop. Mr. Jimenez. Mr. Pfluger. Mr. Pfluger votes aye. Mr. Garbarino. Ms. Green. Aye. Ms. Green votes aye. Mr. Gonzalez. Aye. Mr. Gonzalez votes aye.
Indeed.
Mr. Lalota. Aye. Mr. Lalota votes aye. Mr. Ezell.
Aye.
Mr. Ezell votes aye. Mr. D'Esposito. Ms. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Lee votes aye. Mr. Luttrell. Mr. Strong. Mr. Burkeen.
Aye.
Mr. Burkeen votes aye. Mr. Crane.
Aye.
Mr. Crane votes aye. Mr. Thompson.
No.
Mr. Thompson votes no. Ms. Jackson Lee. Mr. Payne. Mr. Swalwell.
No.
Mr. Swalwell votes no. Mr. Correa.
It's 3 hours and 35
Mr.
minutes.
Carter.
No.
Mr. Carter votes no.
Look,
Mr. Tanadar.
3 hours and 35 minutes.
Mr. Magaziner. Mr. Ivy.
No.
Mr. Ivy votes no. Mr. Goldman.
No.
Mr. Goldman votes no. Mr. Garcia.
Indeed.
No.
Mr. Garcia votes no. Mrs. Ramirez.
No.
Mrs. Ramirez votes no. Mr. Menendez.
No.
Mr. Menendez votes no. Ms. Clark.
No.
Ms. Clark votes no. Ms. Titus. Mr. Higgins. Mr. Guest, Mr. Bishop, Mr. Jimenez, Mr. Garbarino, Mr. D'Esposito, Mr. Luttrell. Mr. Luttrell votes aye. Mr. Strong, Ms. Jackson Lee,
Well, you're talking about my little thing, the following program doesn't have a regular intro because I was too busy. Is that what you're talking about?
Mr. Payne, Mr. Correa, Mr. Tanadar, Mr. Magaziner, Ms. Titus.
Are there other members in the room who wish to have their vote recorded? Clerk, how am I recorded?
You are not recorded.
The chair votes aye.
Chairman Green votes aye.
The clerk will report the tally.
Mr. Chairman, on that vote, there were 11 yeas and 9 noes.
There you
The
go.
ayes have it, and the motion is agreed to. The
Motion to table.
the previous motion is tabled. The gentlelady from Georgia is recognized, and we will give her the time when the clock was stopped, and we'll give you an extra 10 or 15 seconds.
It is great to be here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to be here with our Attorney General, Secretary Ward.
I'll tell you right now, this woman right here, my personal opinion, most likely candidate to be chosen as Trump's running mate. She's definitely on the short list, Sarah Huckabee. Former press secretary for Trump, now governor of Arkansas, passes a lot of MAGA type of perspectives, has proven that she's enough of a winner that she can win her state. There's a lot of, a woman, there's a lot of check marks here that work well for Trump. So I think that she's, I would expect that she's on his short list of running mates. She also is someone who likely would accept the position, as opposed to others who might not.
President Hester, and so many of our great legislators from around the state. I have to say this past week has been pretty eye-opening. I, along with every Arkansan, have watched as the events unfolding in Israel. We have watched that in horror and sadness. The details are almost too terrible to describe, especially for someone like me who has had the privilege of visiting the Holy Land and building lifelong friendships with a number of Israelis. But one thing is clear.
He's definitely not going to take Vivek. And I don't think Vivek should take it. I think Vivek ultimately has his eye on 2028. And serving as his running mate is not beneficial in that capacity. It's not beneficial. So I would think that and their personalities would ultimately conflict. I think that he would do really well. I think he has potential to do really well in a senior cabinet position. I don't see him as a running mate. I don't see it. And I don't think, and if I were him and trying to sculpt his political arc, I would actually think that as weird as it is to say, being vice president could actually harm him more than help him. In the sense that, look, Trump is obviously a lightning rod, and he's already enough attached to him politically with his perspectives, if anything, being more MAGA than Trump is, more about America First values than Trump is. It's just at least with the opinions he expresses, a lot of people distrust him. I understand that. I'm just saying, and he's said over and over again, he won't be Trump's running mate. And I think that's true. I think he recognizes it would not benefit him politically.
America's enemies are on the march. They are cunning, they are brutal, and they will stop at nothing to harm America and
that's what that
our
was,
allies.
right?
We know who our enemies are, not just Hamas and Hezbollah.
I remember Noam doing something that really bothered me. People tend to forget about the Dakotas. I remember her doing something. I don't remember what it was. I remember her doing something that just seemed very,
neocon. It might have been supporting Ukraine. I don't remember what it was, but there was some position she took that I was like, really? I don't remember. I remember it was like 6 months ago.
But a regime in Iran that chants death to America, an authoritarian Russia, and a Chinese Communist Party whose stated goal is to defeat the United States at every turn.
Is that what it was?
Yet for
Maybe.
too long, in the name of tolerance, we've let
It
these
probably was
dangerous
that.
governments infiltrate our country. Arkansas will tolerate them no longer. Today, we are becoming the first state in the country to take an action like the one that we are announcing right now. At the beginning of my term, my administration worked with our
You're another person who's on my short list of those who I need to ultimately convince to vote for Trump. That's when I'll feel like I've succeeded. You're another person on my short list to get you to recognize the need for America to vote for Trump. When that happens, I'll be like, okay, now I can stop banging that drum. When that happens, there's 3 of you. There's you, Linda, 3 women, Linda, Rob, and Cynthia.
Partners in the legislature to get hostile foreign entities out of Arkansas. I was proud to sign Act 636, sponsored by Senator Johnson and Representative Vaught, banning foreign parties from 9 enemy countries from owning agricultural land in Arkansas. And today, we are acting on that law. I'm announcing that Syngenta, a Chinese state-owned agrochemical company, must give up its land holdings in Arkansas. Syngenta owns 160 acres in Northeast Arkansas, which it uses primarily for seed research.
This is an interesting thing. The idea about going after an individual corporation, it seems to have there are a lot of legal issues which attach to that. Problematic legal issues with going after a particular company. Now, I will say this. In lieu of doing that, what I would recommend would be a far more effective way, and what is logical for a state or federal government to pass is a law that prohibits a foreign country from owning land in your region. So you can't, now how you establish those boundaries and categories as far as establishing what is a foreign country and what company is considered, state owned by, whether it's China, North Korea, or I guess in theory, France, and saying that they cannot be owned. That's a statute which makes sense and would probably withstand constitutional scrutiny. When you start going down this road of saying this company like TikTok or that company like Syngenta or even BlackRock or other companies that you and I may abhor, and properly so, the issue you start falling into is what's called a bill of attainder. And today they're going after Syngenta, and tomorrow they might come after Good Lawgic LLC or your company. So that's the problem with allowing for a bill, and that's why we prohibit bills of attainder. It basically means something that's targeting an individual. So I don't like regulations like that, and they are questionable as to whether or not they can withstand constitutional scrutiny. It's difficult to get them to be recognized by a court of law, but a regulation or a law that prohibits a foreign country from owning land specifically in this country is now not targeting a particular individual, even if it just labels certain countries saying they cannot own land. You can target a country. That you can do. You can't target an individual company, but you can target a country and say that country can't own land here. And recognize them as being hostile to the interests of the United States or your local state like Arkansas. So that would seem to have legally stronger grounds rather than just naming individuals.
Company that owns Syngenta, Kim China, is also on the Department of Defense's list of Chinese military companies posing a clear threat to our state. Seeds are technology. Chinese state-owned corporations filter that technology back to their homeland, stealing American research and telling our enemies how to target American farms. That is a clear threat to our national security and to our grape farmers, especially since the Chinese government enacted a law in 2017 requiring Chinese citizens abroad.
Well, there's a thought that could help the women's vote. I mean, there's, you have a woman riding shotgun with her. I mean, would he be better off with Miss Gay as his running mate? Because that's going to get some liberals. He's I don't have a problem. Excuse me. I don't have a problem with him picking someone who is politically aligned with him. So the blurry man in a hat on the right is creepy. Blurry man in a hat. Oh, yeah, that is weird, that dude. I thought you meant me at first. Kidding. You mean this dude right here. Yeah, that is kind of weird. That is strange. Noam is my governor. She does not support the Ukraine war, and she passed a bill banning trans athletes in women's sports. And it wasn't that. I don't remember what it was. There was something that she did. If this election is the Kobayashi Maru, then Elon needs to do a hostile takeover of the country by solving its debt and appoint Mr. Beast as
to collaborate with their
no.
country's security officials on
Mr. Beast
intelligence
would be terrible.
work with no questions asked. This isn't about where you're from. We welcome Chinese Americans, Russian Americans, and anyone else who's given up foreign oppression for American freedom. This is about where your loyalties lie.
What a
We
great
simply
reference.
cannot trust those
It's
who
so
pledge
spot
allegiance
on.
to a hostile.
It has to be purple, but yeah, stylistically. Oh my God. That is really good. That is a really good call. Great job, Mark.
Foreign power. That's why I signed Act 525, sponsored by Representative McKenzie and Senator Boyd, to ban Chinese and Russian-made drones. And it's why I signed Act 758, sponsored by Representative McAlinden and Senator Stubblefield, banning public contracts with the CCP. We will make sure that every company operating in Arkansas is a friend to Arkansas and good to hardworking Arkansans. Secretary Ward has already notified Syngenta about this decision. If they refuse to sell, our Attorney General can move forward with legal proceedings and force them to get out of our state. Arkansas will always protect our farmers and our national security
All right, let's
interests.
move along.
I want to thank our legislature for passing this
Let's move
common
along.
sense
I'm
measure.
bored by this one.
And I want to thank the Department of Agriculture
skipping
for
to the
working
next
so
one.
hard on this issue.
Mayorkas
I will
seems
now
like it's
turn
going
it
to be
over
fun.
to Attorney
Oh,
General.
John Kennedy. Let's do
Mr.
this. This
Secretary.
is going to be the last one I'm going to do tonight. This is the last one I'm going to do tonight. But I'm really enjoying this top 25 thing.
Do you
I'm not going to get to the Matt Walsh one, which is I think after this one, right after this one. I don't expect to do the Matt Walsh thing. We'll see.
agree with the president that we should ban the private ownership of assault weapons in America?
Senator, I do.
I want to get at the beginning of this question.
Should ban.
Hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with the president that we should ban the private ownership of assault weapons in America?
Senator, I do.
What is an assault weapon?
It is, for example, an AK-47.
That's not, you can't give an example. You're not defining assault weapon by saying, for example, unless you're going to give an exhaustive list.
Can you give me a definition other than just pointing to a specific weapon? Would
See,
there
John Kennedy, so smart. I love this man.
be other weapons?
Oh, by the way, he would make a great president. He would be phenomenal. He would be so good. I don't think he has presidential aspirations, but oh my God, he would be amazing.
Besides an AK-47 you would ban?
There very well are. And I remember when I was a federal prosecutor in the Central District of California from September 25th, 1989 to, I believe it was April 2001.
And I thank you for your
all of
service,
the-
but if you
all
could
of the
answer
law
my question.
enforcement, the vast majority of law enforcement officers, leaders with whom I worked we're,
Definition.
greatly in support.
Objection,
of the assault weapons
non-responsive.
ban
Chairman, you know
because of-
why we get so frustrated with you?
Because you're not
Because
answering.
you
the
won't
question.
give straight answers.
I think I just did.
No, you didn't.
I think
No,
I-
you did. Do you have a definition of an assault weapon?
I am confident there is a technical definition of what is an assault weapon, and it was assuredly used in the context of the statute that previously existed banning assault weapons.
Mr. Secretary, our southern border is not secure, is it?
Senator, I have spoken about this. I believe I've addressed this earlier in the hearing.
Why don't you
Let
address
me-
it again?
Of course. Let me share with you a few things. Number one, when I speak of the security of the border, I am speaking of maximizing the resources we have to deliver the most effective results.
So
And let me assure you that we are
it's
doing
secure
so.
because we're trying to secure it. Are we succeeding?
The answer to your question is you can say that a country cannot own land, and this it makes sense to, if you think about it for a second, it makes sense to say that we're not allowing our country to be bought by another country, which it's stupid to think that. I mean, if taken to an extreme, literally you can have China literally owning America, or some other wealthy nation literally owning America, just buying up states worth of property. I mean, at a certain point, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. So yeah, just because you might be able to have, I don't, you want to limit their ability to do campaign financing. That makes sense too. That makes sense too. But just because there's not a limitation there doesn't mean they're like, oh yeah, you also have a right to land. If anything, the question should be, why should they have a right to campaign finance? Yeah, I think your question is looking at it backward, Allegan. You should be asking why they have either right, not why that they should have, that they necessarily should have both rights.
Senator, we are so focused on the security of our southern border. We are doing so much with
But you're
respect
not
to
succeeding.
the surge of
How
personnel.
you're not succeeding?
Oh, Senator, let me share with you that the challenge of migration that we are experiencing at our southern border is not exclusive to the United States. It is something that is gripping the entire
But
hemisphere.
my job is to worry about the United States.
As
Mr.
is
Chairman.
mine.
Well,
As
And-
is mine.
well, why don't you start pretending that you're going to do your job?
Here's my question. Let me try to rephrase it. And I really do wish, I understand the position you're in, but you really should try to do a better job of answering the questions. Under the Biden administration, we have the most encounters. We have had the most encounters with people attempting to come into our country illegally in the history of ever. Under the Biden administration, we have had the most people entering our country illegally in the history of ever. Under the Biden administration, we have had the most gotaways at our southern border in the history of ever. Under the Biden administration, we have had the most number of people entering our country under a claim of asylum, having that claim turned down and still not being deported in the history of ever. And under the Biden administration, we've had the most fentanyl coming into our country in the history of ever. How can you possibly say the southern border is secure?
Do you know
I
that-
understand your answer that you're trying, but I'm not asking about your efforts. I'm asking about the results.
Well, let's talk about the results then, Senator. Do you know that last year we expelled and removed approximately 1.4 million people from the southern border? I believe that's the most ever. Do you realize that we are focused on enforcing our laws to achieve the security of the southern border?
I
that
know you're
people-
focused, Mr. Chairman, but or Mr. Secretary, but you're not succeeding.
Senator,
And when you come testify to us, you talk about
It's like
how you're.
we're going to allow in 12 million people. So this way, when we remove like 1 million of them, everyone should be like, you see, you're doing a great job.
Trying really hard. And I don't have any way to disprove that. I accept that statement in good faith. but the numbers belie that.
If I can, Senator, let me give you an example of a solution that we have delivered that for some reason is being contested. No, because it's
Mr.
caused the
Secretary, I
95.
give you 30 seconds,
It's-
okay?
it's caused the 95.
Don't filibuster me.
It's
You've
caused.
been doing that all day. I'm just trying to
I'm
ask
just
you
trying to
questions.
communicate. It has led to a approximately 95% drop in the number of encounters in between the ports of entry at our southern border of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans
Mr. Secretary.
on January 5th. And
Mr.
why would that
Secretary.
be opposed when it is delivering precisely the result that you seek?
Did you just parachute in from another planet, Mr. Secretary? Because you're the only person in the Milky Way who believes that we're not having massive illegal immigration into America.
Senator, you're putting words into my mouth.
No, sir,
There is-
I'm
there is-
accurately describing the
There is
situation.
no question. There is no question that we have a very serious challenge at our southern border.
Okay.
It
let
is
me-
a
let me-
challenge.
Well,
that is
we can agree on that. Let me ask you another question. Why don't you just declare a new policy that other than children, if you present at the southern border, you claim refugee status, you claim political asylum, and you haven't claimed refugee status and political asylum at the first safe country, then you can't come in.
Senator, so first of all, when one presents at
No,
the
it's
border,
consistent with
an asylum
international
claim,
law.
not
But
a
why don't
refugee.
you do that? Why don't
Not
you
a
just
refugee claim.
unilaterally declare that a safe third country policy? It would work. You can't come into America. If you're coming from Venezuela and you come through Mexico, if you didn't claim asylum in Mexico, you can't come here. You have to leave. Why don't you just do that?
Well, Senator, let me give you an example with respect to Mexico. A safe third country agreement, let's hypothetically
you
assume.
don't have to have an agreement with Mexico.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Why? Why would you
I
need
believe
something?
you do.
No, you
Senator.
don't.
Why?
I'll have
Other
to.
countries don't do it. Just adopt a policy that says, except for children, because
Yep.
you don't want to send children back by themselves. Just adopt a new policy that if you didn't seek asylum in the first safe third country, you can't come in, period.
Senator, are you aware of the notice of proposed rulemaking that we issued, the comment period of which closed yesterday?
You've
which-
had 2 years to adopt a policy like I just described. Why haven't you done it?
So, Senator, what we have done is
But why haven't you done that?
we have surged enforcement resources.
You're not
We
answering the
have
Why
question.
haven't you just adopted?
Answer the
Please, if
question.
you would, Mr. Secretary, answer my question.
It is my understanding.
Why haven't you adopted unilaterally a safe third country policy? That would stop, except for children, all the folks from the Northern Triangle countries, all the folks from Venezuela, all the folks from Cuba, all the folks from the Middle East from coming into our country. Why haven't you done that?
Senator, it's my understanding that those are two things. It is my understanding that those agreements do require.
You don't have to have an agreement with anybody. It can be a
Why would
policy
you need an agreement?
established by the Department of Homeland Security.
There you go.
Senator, I'd have to review the.
You
legal-
haven't reviewed that? You haven't considered that possibility?
Let me finish, if I may.
Sure.
I would have to review the legal underpinnings of your
Well, you
assertion.
better get reviewed.
Why would you need to review what policies you're allowed to do? Like that, what is that, violating international law by saying that we're not going to take someone who didn't follow normal asylee procedure by declaring themselves an asylee in the first state that they entered that was a safe country? This is well established international law as to how asylees are supposed to be established. And you're sitting here saying we can't establish a policy that's consistent with that? What a jackass.
And I also
You ought to
do
get
not-
reviewing. This is the first time that's occurred to you.
I also do not think that that is sound policy.
You don't
to
think
shut-
this is the first time that's occurred to you?
I also do not think that that is sound policy.
Why not?
That we should shut down our entire asylum system.
Why?
I didn't say shut down the entire.
He didn't say that. He said those who are coming up through Mexico.
Asylum system. I said safe third country. All you have to do, Mr. Secretary, if you're really serious, and it's beginning, frankly, to appear that you're not, is adopt a policy that says we're not seeking anyone's agreement. We don't have to. If you're coming from another country and you come through, let's say Mexico, and you say you're seeking asylum, you have to seek it in Mexico or the other first safe third country, or you can't come in. Period. Done. End of story. Why don't you do that?
Senator, I don't think that we have the
Don. It's not a matter of whether land can be moved. I mean, this is not something unique to America. Imagine if America bought up the entire country of Lithuania. Okay, would that make any sense from a Lithuanian perspective that our entire country is literally owned by America? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So it's not a matter of like it being transported away. When you own property, you could do whatever you want with that property. So it just, I'm simply talking as far as logically, like it makes sense for every country to have this policy. You know what? That our country is not going to be bought by another country, like literally the land bought out from beneath our feet. It makes sense. That doesn't mean that someone who lives in a foreign country shouldn't be able to buy anything here. And that's why I said establishing what is considered being owned by what companies are owned by a foreign country. I didn't say any foreign nationals or any foreign non-nationals, but I'm simply saying let's start there by saying the country itself cannot do it. And how you apply that with respect to which persons are considered that's considered as if you're a stand-in for the country, that's the next question. But you need to first establish the first decision, the first ruling, the first statute.
Unilateral authority.
Sure you do. Other countries
number one
do
and
it.
number two, as
If
I
you
mentioned.
try sneaking into China.
And and I say the same to you, Allegan. You're sitting here, you're bogging down as far as like, getting to the next step beyond. And what I'm saying is we need to first establish the first step, which does not seem to be established.
China.
As I've mentioned, I do not think that is sound policy.
Why?
Because you are basically shutting down our asylum system.
No, you're not. You're saying we honor your right to seek political asylum, but you're cherry picking. Do it in Mexico first. Why haven't you done that?
I think I've addressed that issue, Senator.
You don't want to do it, Mr. Secretary. That's what it's beginning to look.
Allegan, you think that makes your point? You think that makes your point? The fact that we bought other lands? Those lands ultimately became ours. So you're saying, oh, yeah, so China should be able to buy up the state of Arkansas. And so ultimately Arkansas will be theirs? Like, I don't understand what that means. You're talking about expansionism, and you're basically saying, well, America's engaged in expansionism, so should let other countries engage in expansionism here domestically. Like, I don't understand the point. You're not making a point against me. You're proving my point.
Because you think our borders ought to be open. And it would be more intellectually honest if you just say that.
That is false.
I don't agree with you. You have to watch up here what people do, not what they say, and everything else is just cottage cheese.
Senator, I don't think
Thank you,
I don't
Mr.
think
Chairman.
the 1.4 million people who were expelled or removed last year would consider the border open.
Mr. Chairman, you've had, Mr.
What about the
Secretary,
10
you've had
the 10 million?
millions coming into the country illegally. The most of the history of ever under your watch.
You have been the suckiest border agent in American history. Literally, statistically.
And everybody knows that, apparently, except you. Either that or you're not being forthcoming with.
We've also had the largest number of individuals expelled or removed from
That
the
doesn't
southern
mean
border.
anything.
If one takes a look at the apprehension and encounter numbers, and then the removal numbers, one would have a different view.
If you do the safe third country policy, That'll solve half of your problem right there.
Thank
And
you,
you're not
Senator.
denying anybody asylum.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Ossoff?
Thank you, Mr.
And who would this be directed to? Would you like to come up?
If I could ask Mr. Walsh.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, if you would mind.
All right. I'm going to wrap this up here. We're going to continue with Matt Walsh. Probably tomorrow is when I'm going to like go on to part 2. I thought that I was going to end up doing this in 2 nights, but this is seeming like it's going to take me 3. I'm not going to kid you. But I'm really enjoying this. I hope you guys are too. So, yeah. I'm going to wrap up my show tomorrow. I'm going to be doing locals. I plan on sharing with you at goodlogic.locals.com. I'm going to share with you my thoughts about the Epstein flight logs and what I saw and what I recall seeing. I'll see if I can dig up my notes on the flight logs because I think I probably have some notes on it. And I attended this trial 2 years ago, so it's a while now. But so I'll dig that. I'll try to dig that up. I'll see if I can find that. And the other thing, the majority of the time, that's what I plan on opening with. The majority of the time, this is all going to be on locals tomorrow at goodlogic.locals.com, which I'm not sure if I said it. It's goodlogic.locals.com. I'm going to also be going through my debate with destiny, my dance with destiny. I am saying that, but our system allows foreign purchase because we make corporations people. To prevent it will be a complex web. Yeah, okay. I'm not saying it won't ultimately become complex. I'm simply saying first we need to establish the notion and have it agreed upon notion that this is how that gets applied and translated. Yeah, that may end up asking some complicated questions. I'm not saying it won't. And there certainly will be disputes as to where the appropriate place is to draw the line. But first we need to start with the basic understanding of the premise, which is we can't have our country being bought by another country. I don't think it's I'm reaching out on a limb to say that should certainly be an easily established, agreed upon principle that that's not a good idea to have that. But that seems like something that's a foreign concept to a lot of folks, and certainly doesn't seem established in American law yet. So, with respect to that, that's what I'm saying is let's start there. Then how that translates with respect to applying it to this person, but not to that person, et cetera, that can be sorted out. But that only gets sorted out once we have the overarching theme as an agreed upon principle. And as of yet, it's not. So, Master Phillips, way behind. You lamented a lack of best Kennedy moments video. Good news, everyone. Forbes hit a 2-hour, 54-minute Kennedy 2023 rewind, bruh. Nice. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Master Phillips. I actually think I saw that. I think I saw that. I was like thinking about doing that. I was like, I think at a certain point, I like the variety here. I know could I sit through that? Probably. But at a certain point, I like the variety of voices. But he's great. What countries, as we let BMW to own land in USA? Yeah. I was saying any countries. I would say Canada. I would say any countries. I know that's controversial. I just say any countries. That's it. Can't own land here. You can rent. Can't own it. You want to grandfather in those who already have? That's another application question. You say, well, BMW already owns this, but I think it's probably a healthy approach. It's probably a healthy approach. Anyway, that's my thoughts on what we've seen today. I hope that you were taking notes because there was a lot of things that we covered. What I like about this is it jumps through different topics, enables me to engage in my brain on different things, whether it's about illegal immigration or about trans rights or police funding or whatever. So, and I certainly appreciate you coming back here. So I'm going to recommend that you do that again tomorrow. But first you want to catch me on locals. That's at goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. That's my show. I'm kicking you over to Nick a little bit late, but yeah, he's probably at his best like 15-20 minutes in anyway. So I'm giving you like the best of Nick Recato. What more could I be passing you to? That's my show. Stay happy, eat the bugs. Oh, and as always, I missed a couple of these. I suck. Why does speech and debate not allow Congress members to speak Their Truth, House Rules Be Damned, and 10 more. Got watch it and catch up, but here's 10 shekels. I appreciate your shekels. Thank you so much. You're awesome. And fans semi-trans black and gets to keep money but no responsibility for Harvard Claudine. She got her $900K annual salary. It's a joke. All right, a lot of stuff covered here. I apologize I didn't check in here sooner. I've been sort of dancing through different things behind the scenes here. Eats the bugs. We covered that. I'm laying the plane very, very, very slowly, but this is where we say Godspeed.